Hi, and welcome to the Delight Knits podcast. My name is Emily, and this is where I like to talk about all that I have been knitting and spinning on since the last time I podcasted. I think it's been about a month-ish. I want to say I did podcast sometime in December. It might have been mid-December. I honestly can't remember the date. But this is podcast episode number 61. I think last time I said it was 40. What was I thinking? But this is 61. And today is Saturday, January 4th of 2025. So happy New Year. I'm looking over here to my podcast notes. I apologize if you hear other outside sounds. We've got 4 dogs outside that have decided they love to bark. My kids are watching TV. I've got laundry going. My husband's outside working. This is when I can do it. This is just life. Let's see. I have quite a bit of finished objects, quite a bit of purchases, and not that many whips to talk about today. So we can go ahead and kind of start with what I finished. I need to go grab, it'll be all right. I finished 3 pairs of socks since I last talked to you. The first pair is my husband's socks. So I knit both of my kids' socks that I showed you wrapped up last time. They opened those up and loved them for Christmas. And then I also knit my husband some socks. These have been worn, so but I finished these, I think before I even posted my podcast, and so I put a finished object picture in at the end because the editing app that I used that time, I couldn't pop them in, so I just threw them all at the end. But I did include this picture, even though when I actually recorded the podcast, they were not yet finished. But here they are finished. He's worn them quite a bit and loves them. He might just get a pair a year. He has some huge feet. I cast on 80 stitches for him. I use a US 0.2 millimeter. So 80 stitches. This colorway is Letter Writer from Ruby and Rose's yarns. And they are definitely sisters and not twins because one came from the outside of the cake and one came from the inside of the cake. So you can tell it gets lighter here, but it definitely started out darker. It's fine. And then I just used some scrap gray that I had for the heels. So he enjoys those and wears them quite often. I also finished what I'm wearing here is my Dear Duomo. So I think I was on the sleeves on this last time. I'm pretty bad about putting in markers between podcasts because usually if it's a whip one episode, it's a finished object the next. And I have worn the heck out of this. So this is the Dear Duomo by Seunghee Knits, I think is what it is, or Seunghee Hong is her name. I hacked this quite a bit. This is fingering weight. It's a DK or a fingering plus mohair pattern. Those dogs, I'm sorry. But I do a fingering weight, change the needle size, and based off of the gauge I get, I choose the size that's best. So for this one, I did a size 6. I striped it with all the yarns that I had left. So I did striping increments of 15, 5, 15, 5. And so the 5 goes in between each one, and it's 15. It does have short rows. It's knit from the bottom up. So it's pretty easy to see what's the front and what's the back because of this, which I actually enjoy. Because when you do a solid, you kind of need like a tag, or you have to look at the neckline to see where this kind of is. Because in the back, it's just kind of, you still have short rows in the back, but obviously not as much. I knit this using Ruby and Rose's yarns, her Plump Rose base. I couldn't tell you the names of all these colorways. I think this one has something to do with beach. I'm pretty sure all of them are from her Yarnary Islands collection. back when I did those swatches a while ago, over maybe 2 years ago. Oy. So I love it. There is a different color on the bottom ribbing. I'm just using what I had, so that's that. I still have quite a bit left of each of these colors, but this is my sweatshirt I throw on as soon as I get home. I have worn this probably every day since I finished it. I love it that much. My other one, so this is the second one for myself. It's like the 5th or 6th one I've knit. My sleeves are a lot shorter, and they end up probably about here because I washed and dried it. Not doing that with this one, but it's perfect for like washing dishes and doing chores around the house. This one is definitely, I extended the sleeves because I learned from my mistakes on the other one. So the sleeves are quite a bit longer, and yeah, I just made that adjustment from that one to this one. So that is this finished object. I also finished, I don't think I had cast on these pairs of socks. Let me grab my sock blockers real quick. I cast on this pair of socks, I think a little bit before Christmas, just because I needed some travel knitting with all the traveling we were doing. And so I love my scrappy socks. I love using up scraps. I take each leftover that I have and split it in half so I can have matching scrappy socks. I've done this quite often. This is just another one of those pairs, but kind of same thing as the other ones. I knit US 0 2mm. I use 9-inch circulars. And this one, so mine I do 64 stitches. These are for me. I usually do 20 rounds. I don't know why I did 30 rounds this time. But these are so long. They're too long almost. I won't do it again. But I used like all my rainbow leftovers. So I started with the black cuff, and then that's a self-striping yarn that I used for my daughters. And then these are all just little random leftovers in rainbow order. That's one that I dyed. And then there's another self-striping that's here. And then you go to the green, blue, purple. For some reason, I mean, obviously weighing them out, I didn't split it perfectly. So I added this darker purple in that one. That's how much off it was. And then picked up to where the pink and the orange are about the same. So these socks are for me, and this was my last finished object for 2024. I finished these literally on New Year's Eve, so they were great. My other finished object I'm actually wearing, so let me pop them off. Ooh. I have been wanting to knit myself a pair of DK like Surrey house socks. So I did. I knit myself, I think these are in Addie's Lover, Ruby and Rose's yarns, fingering plus a Surrey. So you can kind of see the halo there. I knit the Crazy Sock Ladies DK Vanilla socks using a 3.25mm needle. I don't know what size that is. It's a size medium, so the middle one in the pattern. They are loose on me. If I were to do another DK sock, I think I would go down to the small with that. But this is a fingering and a Surrey, so it's also, I think, a looser gauge. But with how loose they are on my feet, I mean, they're perfect house socks, like slipper socks type thing. And that's what they're intended for. And that's what I've worn them for. I have worn these quite often. It's one of those when I get out of the shower and I'm just sitting in bed knitting or studying. Instead of having my slippers on, I have these. I used to wear fuzzy socks quite often in place of something, and I knew I could knit a replacement, to have a hand knit replacement, kind of like a hand knit sweatshirt that you put on. So I finished I knit those up for myself, and they literally took 2 days. And I did have to like rip out and reknit a few things, figuring out like my foot size. but they are, let's see, can you see? They are a little bit bigger on me. There's quite a bit of positive ease, which you don't really want in socks. So if I were to knit myself another pair of DK socks, I think I will go down to the smaller size in that pattern. I just finagle it to do the math myself and do less stitches. So yeah, I will be knitting some more house socks for myself, and I think those will be great gifts for some people in my family. And they fly. So that's that. I also have a few spinning finished objects. Last time I spoke with you, I think I showed off my pink and purple skein that I finished from DFW, and it's actually hanging up right there, but I'm not going to bring it back out. I have since finished off the pink that I had left over, which was quite a bit. It was the only braid of fiber that was from a different dyer. So, of course, like the weight differences and just things like that. But I chain plied the rest of it here. It, I think, turned out great. Let me see if I can, I'll unwind it for you. It was, I think it is fairly like over twisted. You can kind of see it there. This is washed and has been thwacked and all that snapped. Everything you need to do to finish it. But I think it's fairly decent. I do have some iffy spots in the chain plying where like I've got some curly cues and stuff. That happens. It's when I was just kind of practicing, and yeah, some looser spots. I am thoroughly enjoying the spinning. I'm so enjoying it. Like you could see there, that little curly cue there. It did break on me a few times too. So that's what happens when you're learning. So this skein is done. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with all these different chain plies. I've got a few. I've got one more to show you. And so we'll just see. I have yet to knit with any hand spun. I do have plans for 2 of them, but I'm just not in that mindset where I actually have the brain space to knit with those. Let's see if I can get this back together. Yeah, this was Polworth, and I think the pink was from 316 Dye Studio. I bought it at DFW Fiberfest, and I'm spinning all of this on my electric eel wheel 6.1. I have a drop spindle. Haven't touched it. I do plan to this upcoming week because I don't have anything currently on my wheel, but there we go. My little pink skein. And then I also had some of this green fiber that I spun. I think this was the first one I spun on when I purchased the eel wheel, the electric wheel. And so I just chain plied it. I was trying to clear off some bobbins because I've got my next project or 2 will need some more bobbins. So there's that one. I don't remember what this was. I was given the fiber and used it. My next finished object, and the one I'm probably most proud of spinning wise, is from a braid of fiber that I purchased at DFW, the Crafted by Locals. I don't know if I showed it off last podcast. I may have. But it is the Sea Glass Merino 100% Shanico fiber. I loved it, and here is how it turned out. Disregard my crappy skeining, but I absolutely loved it. This has been washed and thwacked and all that jazz. Like, it is finished, ready to go. I do have a yardage counter that I've borrowed from a friend, but when I'm like putting it on the Nitty Naughty, the first time I did it, it was not, like, it was skipping and just not accurate. So I plan on using the yardage counter when I cake up the yarn, so I will eventually get it this is just, I did a fractal spin on this one. So I had 1 4-ounce braid, split it in half. And then each half I split one into 4 parts and one into 8 parts. And they weren't like even. I did have quite a bit, like I think towards the end of plying, where they were lining up, like all the greens were together, all the blues were together type thing. So I will have to watch that when I do get to using this, because one end will start where all the colors line up, which is why you kind of do the fractal. That's what I've learned. Like you can see some of the greens there that lined up, but either way, it's gorgeous, and I'm so excited to get to use this. This is going to be I have plans for it. I do have plans for it. It's gonna be a contrasting yoke in my brioche point sweater design, and I think I'm gonna dye up a like very, very dark navy blue that's similar to like these dark blues here, because I don't think there's too much of that it's gonna not be contrasty. I don't know, but I think I'm gonna end up dyeing it. I do have some bare yarn and dyes that I can do it. So it will be probably towards the end of April that I have time to spend dyeing that. And so this is just going to hang out until then. But I don't want to unscan this one because this actually works well. I do have some thick and thin spots where you'll do it. But I want to say it's closer to a fingering weight yarn. I do tend to spin on the thinner ply. Spin my singles thinner. But I also prefer to knit with fingering weight yarn, so I'm perfectly okay with that. So this is my first 2-ply, and it's gorgeous. I love it. It's fantastic. Can't wait to use it, but it's gonna have to wait. So I love how the label fits on like a normal like hand-dyed skein would. Yeah, I'm so excited to go show my knitting, the person who taught me how to spin this yarn. I haven't seen her in 2 weeks because I usually go on Wednesdays, and it's of course been Christmas and New Year's, and they were closed, and I was traveling or on break. And so I'll go and show her this Wednesday. Last time we were together, I was separating the fiber, preparing the fractal, like getting it all prepped to spin. So I'm so excited about this. I'm absolutely loving it. And so it was a 2-ply, and so I spun the half that was the 4 parts on one bobbin, and the half that was 8 parts on another bobbin. And this is all that I have left. It worked out pretty great. I didn't have that much waste, so to speak. I will probably end up chain plying this or 2-plying it with something else. I don't know. But that is all I had left of one of the plies. So I think I did pretty good splitting it up. Okay, I also finished, I forgot. Addie of Ruby and Roses Yarns has a new collection coming out in the next, month or 2? I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I did knit some new swatches for that collection, and there were 18 new colorways. So I knit 18 of the little 5x5s or swatches, and they've been mailed off. She's received them. You'll see those coming up on Instagram. I don't want to spoil them, although you might see them in the next project. But yeah, I did knit 18 of those swatches, and they fly for me. The last thing I finished is the dishcloths. I am trying to, or one of my sister-in-laws said that she was needing some new dishcloth, or more dishcloths, new dishcloths. And so this is one of 3 that I finished. The other 2 she's already got. I'm just using the dishcloth yarn that I have left over. I can finish one of these on my lunch break. So my goal is to just use up my dishcloth yarn, knit one on a lunch break every day. So I knit one Monday and one Tuesday. Wednesday dropped off those to her, and then this one on Thursday and Friday I didn't get a chance on my lunch break. Still have to weave in the ends. I'll get there. But I've got, this is all of the yarn that I have left. It's Knit Picks Dishy. And this one is in colorway Douglas Fir. And then I've got, I don't know what colorway this is, but it is also Knit Picks Dishy, just like the navy. So once I use that up, I don't plan on buying any more for a little bit. Maybe if everybody that I've knit dishcloths for says they need some more, but not for right now. We can talk about that later in goals. That is being held in my Sassafras knits bag, I think. I don't think she has a little tag, does she? No, but I love this little bag. It's so cute. So that's being held there. My next, that's kind of a whip finished objects. My next whip, and my only whip at the moment, is being held in my String Crazy bags. I love these bags. This is my DK weight blanket. So I have so much DK weight yarn, and from leftovers from all of the swatches that I do for Addie. I think I've done her Taylor Swift collection, her Christmas collection, her Flowers Gone Wild collection, and then now this newest one, all on DK. And so I don't personally use DK all that much. I do live in Southwest Arkansas. It is fairly warm, although today the highs are 40. I think it's a high of 40 or low 40, somewhere. It's cold outside today, and we have this Arctic blast coming in this coming week where it's just supposed to be absolutely freezing. But when you're inside, you don't need it. You've got heat. I don't need a DK weight sweater, and that's what I prefer knitting. I love my house socks, and I will probably knit a couple more of those in DK weight. But brainstorming, I need to use this yarn. I've got too much of it, and more is coming in because I do knit all of her swatches, and I hope to continue to do so. And so the way that I plan on using up all this DK weight yarn is knitting a blanket for mine and my husband's queen size bed. And so I've started I'm not using a pattern, but I'm kind of going off of what people do for the jelly roll blanket. I am using a US 4mm, or so, US 6, a 4mm needle. I cast on 50 stitches, and I am starting out, like, if I have enough, I'll do a full square. That's the back side. I will do a full square. So like this one, I think is coast to coast yarn. I do have one DK weight sweater. We live in the country, that's okay. So DK weight sweater out of this. This is ZZ Textiles and Collins, I think is what it is actually. So this is the non-Ruby and Roses that I have and starting out for the blanket. And then I'm just using up what I have left. I know I used some of this one in a sweater for myself, in a cardigan, the Douglas Cardi. And then I've got a pink, like I use that one in some of my sweater, or actually my mom, and then just all of that. That one's kind of coming up. You'll see that one eventually. So just kind of putting it out there. It is going to be, there you go, you can kind of see it all. So 50 stitches, and then I go to about 10 inches per color if I have that much. So obviously like this one and that one, I didn't have enough to go, but I want to use up all of it. So those just kind of fit color wise there, and I will just put it in. I'm almost done with this first strip. I've got this color that I'm almost done with, and then I'm gonna go into this color, which is another new one. So I'll go into this color, and that will be the first strip, and then I'll go and pick up like the Jelly Roll blanket and start knitting on one of these sides here, just right there. And you can see where I just continue knitting. That's the back side. I will pick up like I did for like all of my collars on my attached, like the Douglas Cardi, and then I think I did it on the Gardy Cardi. And I think it's the way that Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady does her pickup too. But I've done it before, and I don't need a pattern to do it, so that's just the way I'm doing it. I have woven in some of my ends, not all of them, on one end. So when I start a new color, I actually knit with that color held double until that end is like down in here. And so that's how I weave in that first end, and then I'll just come back and actually weave in this end. So I have one end and weave in per color, and that'll help out. But there's my DK weight blanket. It's going to be the perfect study project and use up yarn that I have in my stash project. So that's that. I do have a couple of the colorways from this newest collection that I think I'm going to knit myself a DK weight, just plain DK weight socks with, and so I'll probably start those soon. That's all. I mean, I've got a sample coming in for Addie, but I don't think that will come in until Tuesday, and I will probably have it finished and mailed off before I podcast again. So you won't see it. Maybe I'll take a picture, or I'll just screenshot her picture when she releases it, because her pictures are always 1,000 times better. I mean, she's using them to sell the yarn, obviously they are. And I am horrible about taking pictures of my finished objects. So here's a sneak peek at those colorways that will become DK weight socks. Okay, I want to talk about the things that I've purchased or received since the last time. Goals, and then I have my 2024 like stats kind of, or like what I knit and what categories and stuff, and that was interesting to look at. So I did finish out my opening up my Paisley Knits Advent. So in that Advent there was this candle. I don't know if you can see it. It says Cedarwood and Pine by homecomingcandles.com. It smells fantastic. There was this little shell like bowl, almost an oceans holder. That's super cute. And this is the full skein. Her labels are iridescent with the window right there, but this is the full skein. I don't currently have plans for it. And then let's see if I can hold it up for you. Have it all on a string. It was a gorgeous fade. I know I've shown most of it already, but here it is. So this side is day 1 and this one ended with day 30. I think there's 25, 26 skeins. There were a few goodies. What were the goodies? The candle, the shell, and then there were some shell needle stoppers as well. So that's this Advent. I do not quite know what I'm going to do with it, but let's see if I can show them all, because they're not wanting to. So you've got like the blues, and then you go into the browns and reds. This is her coastal sock base, and I think she's having a pre-order for them coming eventually. And then you go into the greens, and it kind of turns back around into it to where you could do like a looped cowl, where, yeah. So that is that Advent. I loved it. Haven't used it. I will eventually. I love using my Advent projects, but I didn't have an idea for that yet. And I'm kind of glad to wait to see. We'll see. We'll see where that ends up. I also purchased, I told you I purchased the some fiber. I purchased the 4 braids of ZZ Textiles LB is what I'm gonna call it. So I have 4 braids of this. I plan on doing it a 2-ply, so 2 and 2. Let me see if that is the name. This is 100% American Rambouillet. And yeah, this I think is going to be, let's focus back on me, my next spin. So I've got this, and then I ordered I was lucky enough to be able to get one of the extras of Little Fiber Co.'s Patisserie Countdown, which is 8 1 ounce bumps, so it's 8 ounces total. But here is her little thing, that card that came with it. So Lauren of Little Fiber Co. came packaged up so nicely. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to spin this. She spun hers like singles and chain plied it to keep it as a fade. I'm not quite sure what I'll do, if I'll do that or if I will do fractals. She did in her stories like mention a few different ways that you can do this, and like did all the math for you. So that's fantastic. But it came all packaged up with a little bow on it. So cute. So that's that. That one is Tarhi. And I have not spun with Tarhi yet. I don't think I've spun with Rambouillet yet either. Just the Shanico, some random wools from the person that's given me some, and the Polworth. My last fiber that came in is I have signed up for a year of fiber subscription from La Mercerie. So I will get 1 braid of fiber every month. And my January came in, and you've probably seen it. They've posted it on their Instagram, but it is by Yarn Jam. It is called Brand New Day, and it is the January 2025 year of fiber colorway. It is 100% natural Shanico wool, which she has as a US Merino and Rambouillet. And there is a little QR code to tell you what Shanico is. So I'm excited to see what I decide to do with this. Eventually. It's just to build up my fiber stash. I also, over Christmas break, went to Juju Knits and surprised my friend Macy, who was working there. It was so fantastic to see her and surprise her, and then get to go have a meal with her. But I purchased the mini Quartzsmith while I was there, some soak in the wild mint scent, and just some little snips because I have so much yarn. I didn't need more yarn. So loved that store. It was fantastic. I also received for Christmas is some scissors that like fold up. I got 2 pairs of these. That's just the one I still have left. And that's all my acquisitions. Moving forward, my acquisitions are gonna hold to just my year of fiber subscription until I can get a handle on how much I have, which I think is doable. I do have some sweater quantities. I have enough to knit socks, and then spin, of course, and that DK blanket is going to be my focus. So my 2024 stats I have all written down here. I knit a total of 41 projects. Of that 41, 11 of those were samples. And so those I just thought that was interesting. So 1/4 of what I knit were samples. And I counted like the whole collection of swatches that I did, like the 18 swatches that I just finished, as one. And I did, 3 of those. I did the birch sweater. I did 2 pairs of DK weight socks, the Into Bloom cowl for Addie, the Meridian dress for Rachel of ZZ Textiles, the Easy Vest for Lauren of Little Fiber Co. The Wervel is one that I fixed. And then I did the Doodle stocking, and then 4 sets of swatches, of collection swatches. And that's all I knit for samples. I knit, I think, 15 pairs of socks, 16 sweaters, and then there were 9 like miscellaneous things like the stockings. I did a couple cowls, and I think I put swatches in that category as well. I knit 16 sweaters. So here's one, and then I did my other Dear Duomo. I did my son a Dear Duomo, my daughter one. I did the Market Henley. I did the Wervel. I did the Twisted t-shirt. I did my first design, the Brioche Point sweater, which I do have graded. I want to, when I knit this up is when I will probably like call for testers and get that going. Or maybe after I knit this up, because there were a few changes from my first sample that I kind of wrote, but I want to make sure they work out the way that I wanted to, and those changes are done before I put it to testing. So that will eventually come. I did the Easy Vest. I did 2 Douglas Cardis by Andrea Mowry. I did the Meridian dress, the Easy V, the Radvent cardigan, and that birch. So I did a lot of knitting this year, or this past year for 2024. And I'm excited to see how much I'll get done for 2025. Probably not as much with all the spinning that I have planned. So we'll see, but spinning is productive too. I mean, this is some gorgeous one-of-a-kind yarn that nobody else will have, because even if you got the same braid of fiber, you're going to spin it very differently than I did. So I'm hoping this can be my screenshot. Maybe I'll just take one. Okay, so I hope to see you before the end of tax season, but we'll see if that happens. And if not, I will talk to you at some point. Thanks for watching.